Hello, 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 my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds. Welcome to my book garden. Actually, welcome to my basement, but it's got books, the occasional flower, me. That's pretty good. We are on our 5th session of Peach Blossom Debt, and I am super excited. We're actually coming down to the end of it. After this, we only have 2 more sessions, so that's actually going to be Tuesday and Thursday next week. I am so sorry about the confusion about what day are we doing this. What is it going to be? Monday? Is it going to be Tuesday? Stuff's been kind of crazy. I have family visiting and people keep changing plans. But I'm glad that we at least get to do one day this week, so we're just going to go with it. I do not own anything in regards to Peach Blossom Debt. I'm not the publisher. I don't make any money from this. I'm just doing it because I can. Oh, hi, Chichi Kiki. Hi, how are you liking it? I am actually really liking this story a lot. It's been pretty funny, but it's been really good. I initially didn't know kind of where the pairings were going. I was like, they've really made up this whole star-crossed lovers thing. Are we going to break up the couple and it actually going to work? But I'm really liking the relationship that I believe is going on between Hengwen and Song Yao Yuanju. But I'm enjoying it. I'm liking it a lot. I like how this author writes. They've got a bit of humor to a lot of their things. Going back to the copyright aspect, the only thing I own is the physical copy in front of me and my time. So please don't come at me about copyright stuff. Thank you. Also, if you couldn't tell, this is a pretty chill stream. Going to be doing a lot of chatting, and I am glad that I'm liking it too. And while you're here, Chichi Kiki, hello, Cookielicious. I hope you're doing well today and you had a good weekend. Chichi Kiki, there is a new poll for what we read next, and it's between Thousand Autumns, then Peerless after that, and the Disabled Tyrant and His Beloved Pet Fish. So if you haven't already, go ahead and put in your piece on which one you would like to read. Whatever one doesn't get chosen, we will read next time. Oh, and while you're here, I know last time I promised I would show the mushroom hats that I made for myself and my niece, and I actually remembered this time, so I'm going to get those right now. Turn on the lights real quick. They have lights within them. So here's the top, but then here is the bottom back area. It's not all the way on. The pieces are hard. But yeah, this is the one I made for my niece, and she was adorable in it. And then this one. Oh, you just started reading Tyrant and His Pet Fish? Nice. It's one of my absolute favorites, so it's also really rereadable. I love that about it. This is mine. I was a white mushroom, kind of for our little mushroom aspect. Ta-da! You love that it lights up. Me too. It's one of those little things. Like it took a while, especially with like all these pleats. You can see them better, but like there's triple pleats through the top, and there's ribbon, and oh my goodness, it took literally a day for me to make both of these, but it was so worth it. My niece had such a great time. And she's going to be using this for Halloween as well. So I'm glad it's still in good condition. It got rained on, so some of the lights are a little That's okay. Can help fix it up later. But yeah, I wanted to show you guys, because I promised I would last time. And there we go. But yeah, I can try and share the link of how to do that. You will be bringing an Anzi to the con at the end of the month. That's perfect. Are you going to do the one that you showed? Because you looked great. That'd be awesome. No, I debated on doing a full cosplay of that, and then my sister was like, don't you want to match your niece? So I went more medieval mushroom witch to match my niece, who was dressed in like a peasant dress, a red peasant dress, so she could be her toadstool self. But yeah, no, it was a really great time. It wasn't too hot because it kept raining, but it was kind of muggy. Got a little burned, but what you gonna do? It's summer. But yeah, no, I had a great time. Did anyone else do something cool this weekend or something that made them happy? It doesn't have to be big. Could be like, hey, I went and got ice cream. Sometimes that really makes my weekend too. Oh, another thing, I went and saw the How to Train Your Dragon movie, and I appreciate that they very much stayed to the spirit of it and to the script of it. Like I could pretty much quote that movie. Nice. No, just worked on schoolwork and went to the docks. I mean, I hope whatever you went to the docks for, it's good news. Progress. That's why I'm not going to be here Thursday. I have to go to a specialist. But we're hoping for good news. So fingers crossed. Just to check up. Good. Well, all right. We will go ahead and get started. We kind of left on a little bit of kind of exciting cliffhangery point last time. Just where it was like, oh yeah, Mingwei came in and he was like, no, you're like done. Because our boy was like, all right, so how are we gonna do this? Am I gonna get another like body? What are we gonna do? And Mingwei was like, no, you're pretty much done. Just kind of chill here. They're both about to die. And it was like, okay, what do you mean they're about to die? Wasn't I put here to make sure they suffered for like 20 years? Like, huh. And instead, in the book it says, okay, I wish you good luck reading tonight. I will check in again soon. I love that. Thank you so much. It was great to hear from you, Chichi Kiki. I look forward to seeing you or seeing your messages soon. Bye-bye. Inside Mingwei's book, it said, Shan Shengling and Mu Ruoyan's lifetimes come to an end. Tianshu Star and immortal Nanming enter the cycle of reincarnation once more. So they tried to cut the red string of fate, but also the word Tianshu Star circled by a golden circle in the book of Fate. What is that about? So they were talking about, hey, What's this circle? I saw a gold ring around his little finger on his left hand. It was tied with a golden thread. Each cause has its effect, and every effect a cause. And sometimes the seed one sows and reaps are convoluted and a pain to keep track of. However, could the gold thread on Tianshu's hand come from the same source as the so-called rumor of the heavenly court? What rumor? This immortal lord tactlessly said. Mingwei said nothing, and Hengwen continued. The thread of the immortal bond. Have you never heard of it before? I had indeed never heard of it. Mingwei was all sighs as he said, Actually, I guess it could also be considered the ill-fated affinity between Tianshu Xingjun and Nanming Dijun. Could you be more specific? I asked, but on seeing the pair's unfathomable expressions, I sensibly added, If it's a secret of heaven, then forget I asked. Mingwei sighed again. It's really no secret. Secret. Oh my goodness. Hengwen said, It has been said that when Tianshu Star and Nanming Dijun were first born, they shone and reflected each other, inextricably connected. Tianshu Star was originally the star of emperors, one who protects and blesses the preordained son of heaven with the aura of an emperor in the immortal world, while Nanming Dijun was in charge of the fortunes and destiny of a nation. Both immortals mutually complemented and assisted each other as if they were one. So the legend goes, a thread of immortal bond was later formed between Nanming Dijun and Tianshu Xingjun. Actually, this thread is somewhat similar to Yue Lao's red thread of fate, mutually binding them in an entanglement of immeasurable adoration, and tender affection. So it turned out that Tianshu and Nanming had this deep a past. Could the Jade Emperor have banished Tianshu and Nanming to the mortal world, this time to sever the thread of love? Or setting up love trials, Yu Lao's red thread of fate, and even this immortal lord, all just to sever their love with another kind of love? Mingwei looked back at this immortal lord, still saying nothing. It's too late, Hengwen shook his head and said in a heavy voice, The thread of immortal bond has a slip knot and a dead knot. A slip knot can be undone, but the one on Tianshu's hand now is a dead knot, if the tales were true, and cannot be undone unless he is completely obliterated. I was stunned. Actually, Mingwei faltered. The Jade Emperor made such an arrangement only because he was also trying to think of a way to undo it. After all, he sighed loudly, shaking his head. He patted this immortal lord on the shoulder in passing, then cupped his hands to Hengwen. I still have some trivial matters to attend to in the heavenly court, so I shall take my leave first. Then riding the wind and the clouds, he returned to the heavenly court. So that's where we ended last time. And now we get to see kind of their reaction. Are they actually going to listen to Mingwei and just leave it be like, I guess that's it? But as we know, there's been some open interpretation for Mingwei in this and his predictions, and they haven't happened in a straightforward manner. So will these two be able to countermand this? That's what we'll find out. 1 second. Okay. Chapter 16. Gorgeous red clouds adorned the horizon. It was nearing dusk. There was a woodland on the hillside, an expanse of yellow grass littered with withered yellow fallen leaves outside. Looking out from this spot, the sky appeared all the more far away. Hengwen and I found ourselves a seat in this place, taking it all in. With a yawn, Hengwen remarked, I really am a bit sleepy. He then closed his eyes and lay down on the grass. I sat watching the distant sky, unwittingly sinking into my inner poet. So high above, yet so far away, and to think I had spent countless years up there. It was a good hand I had been dealt. As night fell, Hengwen asked me where we should go to kill time. I'm thinking of heading to Mu Ruoyan's residence for a look, I answered. Oh, Hengwen said unhurriedly. You're going over to see how the mountain cat is? No, I replied. I'm thinking of checking in on Mu Ruoyan. I feel somewhat ill at ease after hearing what Mingwei said in the afternoon. It's really fortunate that Mingwei didn't tell me a thing, or I'd already be spilling the details to him. Now, there's nothing left for me to say, but I still keep wanting to check in on him. Hengwen sighed. Right, then go. Thinking of taking a stroll around Luoyang City in another form, so I won't be going with you. Let's meet on the rooftop of the inn we were staying at. As we rode the clouds above Luoyang City, Hengwen pressed down upon the clouds, and I could not help but call out, Hengwen! Under the starlight, Hengwen turned to face me. What? But I did not know what I should say, so I stammered, Stroll to your heart's content. I'll wait for you on the rooftop of the inn. Hengwen smiled and answered, Got it. This immortal lord took on the appearance of a scholar and made some inquiries on the streets of Luoyang. A quarter of an hour later, I was standing on the ridge of Mu Ruoyan's roof. Surprisingly enough, Shan Shengling kept it all very covert. His residence was in the city's north, and he had settled Mu Ruoyan down in the city's east. The residence was not at all large. Flowers and trees were planted everywhere, giving it an exquisite look. From where I stood on the roof ridge, I saw several brightly illuminated side chambers in the rear courtyard. Just as I concealed myself, setting myself in the middle of the courtyard, I spied a maidservant gliding through the walkway, entering one of the side chambers with a plate in her hands. I could not resist following her in for a look. This side chamber was tastefully furnished and brightly illuminated. The brocade bedding and embroidered quilt laid neatly out for sleeping. The mountain cat was lying contentedly on the quilt, its little paws toying with that bamboo tube of mine. It sure looked comfortable there. This must be Mu Ruoyan's bedchamber. The maidservant set the plate on the table, curtsied, and withdrew, shutting the door. I looked at what appeared to be tiny snacks on the small plate, all wrapped into cubes. Splotches of oil seeped through the colored paper, giving off a sweet aroma. Hengwen was not very fond of eating the sugary stuff, but it seemed that was not the case for Tianshu. I thought of Mu Ruoyan's tragic outcome, still unknowable as yet, that was yet to come in a couple of days, and felt forlorn. The mountain cat on the bed sat up, nose twitching as it craned its neck towards the plate on the table. It leaped to the ground and kicked off onto the table, where it peered down at the snacks, then picked up one with its mouth, set it down, and began nudging it around with its paw. The snack was tightly wrapped and would not open. It cocked its head at it, licked its whiskers, and with a few furtive glances around, finally hit the ground, instantly shifting back into an 8 or 9-year-old boy. Gingerly, he walked over to the door to bolt it, then tiptoed back again to the table and peeled off a wrapper before stuffing it into his mouth. A person strode out from behind the screen. Mu Ruoyan. Whoops! As if sensing his presence, the mountain cat looked back. The color drained from his face, and he turned to escape. But Mu Ruoyan grabbed him by the shoulder. All at once, the mountain cat cried out and began to squirm out of his hold. He raised a hand to claw the offending arm. Acting quickly, this immortal lord reached out and calmly lifted his front claw. The mountain cat's hand paused for a moment. The force of his blow weakened, but even so, there was still a ripping sound as he shredded several strips of fabric from the sleeve of Mu Ruoyan's light-colored silk robe. I recited a binding spell that tied the mountain cat's hands together with an invisible thread. Unable to exert force, his attempts were reduced to writhing and struggling. He lowered his head in an attempt to bite Mu Ruoyan's wrist, but he always missed by just a fraction or two. "Don't be afraid," Mu Ruoyan said to the mountain cat in a kindly voice. "I won't hurt you. I only wish to ask you a question or two. I won't force you if you don't wish to answer, and after that, I'll let you go. All right?" Seeing that he could not get any advantage over Mu Ruoyan, the mountain cat blinked his green, teary eyes. With hesitance, he eventually nodded and stood obediently still. Mu Ruoyan slowly let go of his shoulder and pulled him over to the table to sit. He set a handful of the snacks before the mountain cat, who cowered as he looked at him, sniffling. Then he suddenly burst into tears. "Don't hand me over to that bad guy, Shen." Mu Ruoyan raised a sleeve to wipe his round face and said softly, "Don't worry. I'll let you go once I've asked my questions. I won't tell anyone. If I really wanted to hand you over, I could have done so earlier, right? Why would I wait until now?" The mountain cat choked on his sobs. "Promise me." "I promise." Mu Ruoyan nodded. Only then did the mountain cat wipe his snot. He still sniffled, but then he stopped crying. This immortal lord felt a little resigned watching from the table. The fox could be said to be an astute man. Why were the little demons he taught all so silly? Mu Ruoyan petted him on his head, then removed the wrapper from a snack before stuffing it into his hand. "You are a Ming?" he asked gingerly. The ears on the mountain cat's head twitched. He nodded. "It's a lovely name. Who gave it to you?" Mu Ruoyan asked. "The great king gave it to me," the mountain cat answered in a small voice. Mu Ruoyan smiled. "Actually, I just wanted to ask you where you got that bamboo tube on the bed." The mountain cat answered falteringly in a thin voice. "It belongs to that old Daoist priest whom the immortal song was disguised as. I took it to play with it." His words were like a punch, so out of left field that it made this immortal lord see stars. From the spot where I was watching, invisible, I was this close to pounding my chest and stomping my foot. Several days of painstakingly building up my identity, only for it all to crumble apart because of this brat's expose. Mu Ruoyan's expression changed slightly, his brows now knitted, although his tone still remained neutral. "Are you talking about that old Daoist priest who is with that young master?" After eating a piece of Mu Ruoyan's snack, the mountain cat grew bolder. "That's the one. The immortal with the other immortal, Qingjun, who is disguised as the young master. The great king likes that good-looking Qingjun, so he won't let me go to Qingjun for hugs. That song immortal is so scary when he's disguised as the old Daoist priest. He doesn't like it when the great king asks Qingjun for hugs. He's very fierce towards the great king. That's why he never plays with me. So I took his bamboo tube to play with." Man, he just spilling all the secrets. This immortal lord would like to slam myself against the wall now. Mu Ruoyan hesitated. "Could it be that the snow fox is your great king?" he asked. The mountain cat nodded. Mu Ruoyan closed his eyes and said slowly, "All right, that's it. Thank you. If you wish to leave, leave quickly." He withdrew a handkerchief that he wrapped the snacks in, then set it in the mountain cat's lap. He stroked the cat's head one more time. "Don't worry, there's no one powerful in this courtyard now. That Shan person won't come over either. No one will know it if you leave quietly. What other snacks do you like? I'll get someone to bring you more." You're a good person," he said suddenly. "I don't want your snacks. That bad guy Shan and a Daoist priest in blue clothes captured all my brothers and sisters. Do you know where they are?" Mu Ruoyan was momentarily taken aback. "I have no idea." Tears trickled from the silly cat's eyes again. Mu Ruoyan wiped them away with a sleeve. "How about this?" he said gently. "If I find out, I'll definitely think of a way to let them go." The mountain cat rubbed his snot on Mu Ruoyan's sleeve and sobbed. "You're a human who's been transformed from a good immortal, unlike that Shan person who's been transformed from a bad immortal." This immortal lord's head was buzzing from listening to him. Mu Ruoyan was momentarily stunned, but in no time he was laughing. "Child, why are you going around calling everyone an immortal?" "Well, at least there's that." Finally, the mountain cat stopped crying. Mu Ruoyan opened the door for him. Haltingly, he asked of Mu Ruoyan, "Do you know where my great king and those two exalted immortals went after leaving the inn?" "I have no idea where they went after leaving even the prefecture office," Mu Ruoyan answered. With the bundle of snacks in hand, the mountain cat looked out the door, his expression somewhat lost. Seeing this, Mu Ruoyan said, "If you don't know where to find your great king, why not stay here for a few days? Your great king knows I took you away. He'll surely come looking for you." The mountain cat visibly hesitated as he held the snacks in his arms and peered at Mu Ruoyan's expression, pondering. Eventually, he gave a timid nod of his head. And so he returned to the chamber, ate 2 snacks, and transformed back into his original form. Surprisingly enough, it chose to snuggle in Mu Ruoyan's lap and fell asleep. This immortal lord could not help but wipe my forehead. Mu Ruoyan set the mountain cat gently onto the bed and then pushed the door open to leave the side chamber. Perhaps because he always liked to stand alone in the yard, there were no maidservants or young servants around to wait on him. I followed him to the courtyard, where he stopped to stand in silence by a plantain tree. This immortal lord pondered it over for a moment, then circled around to the shadow of a tree opposite him. Manifesting myself, I walked out from the shadows and cupped my hands in a greeting. "Young Master Mu." I mean, you literally just got told by the person who writes the Book of Fate, go chill, don't interfere. We never listen. In supernatural tales, the wandering ghosts always apparated from the night like this. What's more, the breeze was gentle here and the moonlight dim. The moment this immortal lord walked out, Mu Ruoyan took a startled step back, but after a glimpse, he likely figured me out to be an old acquaintance. I cupped my hands again. "Young Master Mu, this humble one is Song Yao." Standing in the courtyard, Mu Ruoyan fixed his eyes on me. "Song Yao, Daoist Master Guangyun." May I ask just who exactly your esteemed self is? I am someone whose fate is intertwined with young Master Mu's, I said. In the past, young Master Mu committed a grave wrong and now must suffer all your current hardships. Karma is looming right ahead. Young Master Mu, please stop before it's too late. If you sincerely repent now, there may yet be room to turn back. Oh, Jade Emperor, even if you are watching me from the heavenly court as I tip him off, this immortal lord's earnest exhortations could also be considered as going along with your wishes. Iffy. Mu Ruoyan said nothing at first, but eventually intoned slowly. Karma. The kind of karma I will receive remains to be seen. But I more or less know what the grave wrong your esteemed self mentioned is. Human nature should be free and unconstrained to begin with. The only mistake in my actions is probably that they run counter to the so-called principles of the world. Thank you for your kind reminder. It's just... Mu Ruoyan looked at me and smiled. I must have ended up where I am today because I was unwilling to turn back and repent in the first place. Since this is where I've ended up, then what need is there for me to turn back again? I was struck speechless. Mu Ruoyan turned around and walked slowly back to the side chamber. I took a step after him. Even if you meet an unkind end in the coming days, even if you suffer the hardships of reincarnation through several lifetimes without a good ending in any life, you need only admit a mistake. You must consider it carefully. Mu Ruoyan stopped in his tracks, turned only to answer, Is that so? So it turns out that I still have an end. Then went straight back to his bedchamber. I stood blankly in place for a moment before rising on a cloud. The wind on the roof of the inn was freezing, but the stars up above were dazzling. The stars of the Big Dipper hung in the sky, shining brightly. Behind me, a voice with a hint of a smile said lazily, Now that you are done seeing Tianshu, you're going to gaze at the Big Dipper and mope? I saw who it was instead. Hengwen. Hengwen and I sat side by side on the roof. I went to tip Tianshu off, I said. Told him cryptically about his eventual fate in a day or two. I said to admit his mistake and stop before it's too late, but he refuses to. I knew that this would be the outcome, Hengwen said. Tianshu's nature is one that would rather break than bend. He never owned up to his mistake back at the Immortal Execution Terrace. What's more today? I could only sigh. Changing the topic, I asked Hengwen about his stroll in the city. So, Hengwen answered. Shan Shengling put the city on edge. Everyone is in a state of panic. Wails were all I could hear when I walked on the streets. Did you know that after Xuan Li revealed the truth, Shan Shengling killed everyone in the hall after we left to prevent it from leaking out? I was shocked. It's a tad too ruthless, isn't it? Indeed, Hengwen sighed. Nanming Dijun's ruthlessness has only increased this one trip down to the mortal realm. He has dragged Tianshu into suffering retribution with him. He lay back on the tiles and drawled. I wonder what will happen tomorrow. The tiles on the roof were uneven and bumpy, not level or smooth at all. Hengwen, lying here is a touch too hard and uncomfortable, I said. Why don't we go elsewhere? Or you could lean against me while you sleep. You haven't gotten the chance to rest these couple of days. Hengwen sat up at once. Eyes that were like pools of ink gazed into mine. He chuckled. What has gotten you so broody? I was this close to blurting out the truth. Fortunately, my willpower was strong enough. I could only say, using your powers is physically taxing. Besides, Hengwen's eyes came closer and closer into view, his voice a low baritone. What about you? I gulped and cleared my head with thoughts of the mortal realm observation mirror. Hengwen, I always felt that being able to ascend to the heavenly court, becoming an immortal, was a blessing heaven just dropped into my lap. Hengwen raised his eyebrows, withdrawing to sit upright. That good? Yes, I answered. The breeze was chill around us. The clear moon outlined a sleeping city in light. On the ridge of the rooftop, I heaved a long sigh. Hengwen, you have never been to the human world, so you don't know that here 100 years is but a far-fetched dream. Yet in the heavenly court, one could look forward to an everlasting eternity. Hengwen had fallen asleep against the roof tiles. This immortal lord lay beside him, and without realizing it, I too fell asleep. So I'm kind of curious, like, at this moment, are they visible? Are they invisible? Like, are they just two dudes sleeping on a rooftop, hoping nobody sees? Like, I mean, people consistently don't look up. So it'd be easy enough to miss it, but just curiosity. It was already bright by the time I woke up on a cloud. Hengwen stood at the edge, peering down. You're finally awake, he said. Look down. I reckon mayhem is going to ensue soon in Luoyang City. I rushed to get up and joined him in observing the ground. Hengwen lowered the cloud a little more, just in time for me to see soldiers moving on the streets of Luoyang, checking the passerbys one at a time. Non-residents and street beggars were all rounded up, bound, and strung together with a rope as the soldiers led them back to the prefectural prison, all the while striking and kicking them. That's harsh. That day, the armies of the Prince of the Eastern Commandery and the Imperial Court arrived at the Yangtze River and clashed with the naval units of the Southern Commandery. The battle was an extraordinarily violent one, and the river flowed with corpses. Shan Shengling had always been arrogant about his achievements in the Southern Commandery. This battle was an opportunity to knock him down a peg. Shan Shengling had only 9,000 elite troops at his command, and the Prince of the Southern Commandery had given him the order to defend Luoyang to his death. The naval units of the Southern Commandery, being no match for the two armies, were almost completely wiped out. On the second day, the armies of the Imperial Court and the Eastern Commandery went ashore on the opposite bank. They had fought their way to the city gates by dusk. The armies stood in formation outside Luoyang City the following morning. Shan Shengling led 5,000 soldiers out of the city to face his enemy's battle. Li Shixuan steered his horse out from the Eastern Commandery. Li Xixian, so our first body's brother, steered his horse out from the Eastern Commandery formation and shouted, "Listen up, soldiers and commoners of the Southern Commandery. Our Eastern Commandery have mobilized troops this time only to seek revenge against Shan Shengling. We have no intention of harassing the common folk. Shan Shengling abducted Mu Ruoyan, a fugitive wanted by the Imperial Court, from the Prince of Eastern Commandery's manor, and murdered Li Siming, my third younger brother, and the third son of the prince. If we do not avenge this feud, our Li clan in the Eastern Commandery aren't fit to call themselves humans. Hand over Shan Shengling and move Ruoyan, and the Eastern Commandery will withdraw our troops immediately, never again to invade the Southern Commandery. A general from the Imperial Court Army rode out of the formation and shouted, Shan Shengling, a fugitive wanted by the Imperial Court, has been hiding in the Southern Commandery for several years and now harbors another wanted fugitive of the Imperial Court, Mu Ruoyan. We are here on His Majesty's decree to arrest them both. I hope you can hand them over post-haste. The Imperial Court will naturally offer a reward for them. Shan Shengling roared with laughter from his horse. Do you lowlives think that by sowing discord, you can mess with my troops' morale? He waved his longsword and the soldiers surged forward. Thus began combat with the armies from the Imperial Court and Eastern Commandery. Nanming Dijun was, of course, incomparably valiant as he rode his steed through the enemy's mist, cleaving away at the people like he was slashing grass. However, it ultimately proved hard for his 5,000 soldiers to win against tens of thousands of soldiers. In the end, Shan Shengling retreated into the city with only 3,000 survivors in tow. Neither the Imperial Court nor the Eastern Commandery pursued them. Instead, they set up camp where they were and sent runners to the border of the city to shout for Shan Shengling's and Mu Ruoyan's handover. That night, along the streets of the city, countless torches materialized to surround the residence of Mu Ruoyan and the general. I stood on the clouds watching the crowd bay for the blood of those two treacherous traitors. You good? Okay. All right, chapter 17. It must have been fate at work. Shan Shengling killed the Perfect and all his runners that day to silence them, but he had missed an advisor who managed to flee. When the words shouted at the city border matched with the testimony of the advisor, the commoners rioted, and the army was promptly thrown into disarray. This crowd, already panicking at the massive troops outside with the only meager forces within to protect them, swarmed to kill the two perpetrators of this whole mess, Shan Shengling and Mu Ruoyan. The crowd first went charging toward the general's residence with their torches raised high, but Shan Shengling was already gone, having been escorted away by a few of his men willing to die for the cause. His residence was empty. The crowd searched all over, throwing things around and smashing them. After a moment, someone yelled, No doubt Shan Shengling has already fled. To the residence of the one named Mu. The torches converged together and swarmed out of the general's residence. The people threw a few torches into a side chamber, and the room promptly burst into flame. With all these delays, Shan Shengling should have already taken Mu Ruoyan out of the residence. But everyone in the city wanted them dead, and the armies of the Eastern Commandery and the Imperial Court had the city completely surrounded. So how were the two of them going to escape? I rode the wind and hurried over to the Mu residence. The torches on the street resembled a meandering fire dragon. The main entrance to Mu Ruoyan's residence was wide open, but Shan Shengling and Mu Ruoyan were standing in the inner courtyard facing each other. This immortal lord let loose a long sigh. Goodness me, Nanming. At a moment when time is of the essence, what are you doing just standing there? If he's unwilling to leave, just knock him out and hoist him away. The crowd that wants to hack you both to pieces is almost at the door. I mean, he's got a point. Like, have your lover's quarrel elsewhere? I lowered the clouds and heard Nanming say, This is just great. I can't believe even you see me as a tyrant, wicked beyond redemption. What else is there for me to say? It's actually me who sowed the seed of this sin, Mu Ruoyan said. It has nothing to do with you. Nanming suddenly reached over to grasp Mu Ruoyan by the chin. Even at this point, are you still regretting killing Li Siming? At this point, you can only get out of this predicament by handing me over, Mu Ruoyan said. You've been enduring it all in silence for so many years. Do you want to let it all go to waste now? The torches had already reached the entrance, but the crowd did a double take on seeing the main doors open. What's this? Someone yelled. Are they playing us with a fucking empty fort strategy? Another voice promptly answered. Who the hell cares? Let's just storm our way in. Chimes of agreement rose here and there, but no one dared to move. Shan Shengling was still grasping Mu Ruoyan's chin as they looked into each other's eyes. He suddenly let go. Your clan was executed and your family properties were confiscated only because you took me in. Between you and me, who exactly owes whom? He suddenly struck out a palm, swift as lightning, that struck Mu Ruoyan's neck before he could react. Mu Ruoyan went limp and collapsed. With a clap of his hands, Shan Shengling summoned a few guards in black. Coldly, he commanded, Send young Master Mu out of the city, even if you have to risk your lives. The torches cast a red hue over the sky. Shan Shengling removed his armor and helmet to lean over Mu Ruoyan. I, Shan Shengling, will take responsibility for what I have done, he whispered under his breath. I don't need someone else to shoulder the blame for me. With that, he took up his longsword and strode towards the door. Standing there with his longsword held aloft, he said, You lot want to kill me, so who has the guts to go first? Torches swarmed forth and shadows of blades rose. Combat sounds permeated the air. A guard in black bore Mu Ruoyan on his back, while the others formed a protective barrier around him. They ran for the backyard. Hengwen said, voice soft, The time is now if you want to save Tianshu. You should go and take a look outside the city, I said. I'll stay here. With a laugh, Hengwen said, With both of us sharing the blame, the punishment may very well be a little lighter. He clapped a palm on my shoulder. The space beneath this old immortal lord's feet became empty, and I hit the ground with a heavy thud. Hengwen landed gracefully behind me. A gust of refreshing air swept past, and before the few guards in black could be shocked, they toppled over like falling eggplants. Hengwen and I rode the clouds up, this time with Tianshu in tow. Ay, 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 ay. Outside the entrance to Mu Ruoyan's residence, blood splashed like a river. Shan Shengling was soaked in blood from head to toe, still fighting at close quarters amidst the crowd of people. Hengwen flicked a finger, sending a blue light to land on Shan Shengling. Nanming was once a Dijun, after all. Since we've saved Tianshu, let's shield him with a spiritual barrier for a while. I suddenly spotted a tiny figure huddled on top of the enclosing wall of Mu Ruoyan's residence. Isn't that the mountain cat spirit? I blurted in astonishment. Hengwen focused his gaze over. Indeed it is. Resignedly, I said, Let's double dip and bring it up here. As the clouds descended, Mu Ruoyan gave a sudden stir. He woke up. Perhaps the nourishment from that bowl of Jinluo Ling Shi had rearranged Mu Ruoyan's constitution so that it was now slightly different from ordinary people. To think he would wake up at this time, even after that blow from Nanming. This immortal lord watched as he jolted up and surveyed his surroundings, teetering on the clouds. I had to explain to him, "Don't be afraid. This is this immortal lord's cloud riding technique. I'll take you out of the city." Mu Ruoyan stood at the edge of the cloud. "Is this how you two gentlemen mean to save me?" My silence was my assent, and Mu Ruoyan responded mildly. "You've already said that this is my deserved outcome. The debt that I owe must be repaid. I have no wish to know about what happened in my previous incarnation, but now I wish to have an ending. Please grant me this." The silhouette of him moved as he made to throw himself down. I snatched his arm, and in a moment of desperation I had no choice but to say, "You don't owe me a thing. Actually, the truth is that I'm the one who owes you." Mu Ruoyan fixed his eyes on me, and I declared, "I'm Li Siming." Mu Ruoyan looked at me, his expression calm and still. "Li Siming was a disguise of mine, as was Guangyunzi," I said. "If you don't believe me," I reached the other hand under the chest of my robes and pulled out a jade pendant. I held it out before him. "This jade pendant of yours is still with me. That day in the Prince of the Eastern Commander's manor, I fooled you and made a show of throwing it into the pond, but I actually hid it away. I heaved a sigh and spilled it all. I descended to the mortal world on orders to set up trials for you. You were originally Tianshu Xingjun of the Heavenly Court, but you violated the laws of heaven and were banished to the human world together with Nanming Dijun, Shan Shengling. My orders were to set up love trials for you in this life, and many of the unkind deeds I've committed were done deliberately. I deserved that one stab of yours, so you owe me nothing at all." I mean, he's really just spelling it out for him right here. Like, I have a feeling he's probably going to get in big trouble for this, because this feels like you're not supposed to tell mortals of their fate, one. And also, you're not supposed to, like, admit that heaven is actively plotting against you, to my understanding. But anyway, Mu Ruoyan looked at the jade pendant in silence until he suddenly said slowly, "This jade pendant, I've had it for as long as I can remember. It was supposedly a gift from an itinerant Daoist priest who said that this jade pendant and I have an affinity from a past life, be it past life or present life or the identity of so-and-so. What does it all matter?" That clear gaze moved until it landed on my face. "Since it's heaven's punishment, then there exists an outcome." This immortal lord's heart became flooded then with emotions, innumerable, indescribable. A blinding flare of lightning suddenly flashed from beneath us. I whipped my head around and looked down to the ground. "Something's not right," Hengwen remarked. Shan Shengling was amidst the crowd, slashing and stabbing and killing left and right, spent and exhausted. The barrier Hengwen had cast on him had already dissipated. Slashes riddled his body. More and more people surrounded him, their blades and axes falling in unison. It looked like Shan Shengling was about to meet a violent end under the blades of the crowd. One long axe hacked down heavily on Shan Shengling's shoulder. Blood spurted and splashed onto the wall of Mu Ruoyan's residence, right beneath where the tiny dark figure of the mountain cat huddled. In an instant, a blinding flare of lightning enveloped the wall. This immortal lord stood on the clouds and heard a sharp howl penetrating the skies. Oh, some of the other demons. Oh no, the mountain cat. The mountain cat's spirit silhouette loomed against the wall, growing bigger and bigger. The flare of lightning enveloped Shan Shengling, and all the people encircling him let loose blood-curdling screams. There was a crash. Several charred and stiff corpses had toppled to the ground. When the howl was about to trail off, this immortal lord saw a strange gargantuan beast sweep off the wall amidst the sizzling lightning to land, for Shan Shengling pounced on the crowd, and blood burst everywhere. This immortal lord was stunned, frozen on the clouds. The snow lion, Hengwen muttered under his breath. To think it's the snow lion? The legendary ferocious spirit beast, the snow lion? My grip on Tianshu's left arm slackened in spite of myself. I looked at Hengwen, but before I could say a word, my hand turned up empty. My heart went cold, and I whipped my head back. Mu Ruoyan had already leaped off the clouds. A violent gale rose, instantly sweeping Mu Ruoyan into the clouds. This immortal lord hurriedly jumped off the clouds, only to suddenly bounce off of a divine barrier. A piece of cloud appeared in wisps beneath my feet, buoying, lifting me upwards, and a figure flitted past me. I'm afraid it'll prove hard to deal with the snow lion with your cultivation. I'll go. With these words, his figure disappeared amongst the clouds. Amongst the wind. I am struggling, and I apologize. I howled his name and reached out, but my hand grabbed nothing but empty air. Mu Ruoyan plunged fast. Hengwen, too, moved fast. To my surprise, that cloud fettered my legs, rendering me immobile. The mystical beast's great sharp claws swiped towards Mu Ruoyan as he was about to fall right before its eyes. Hengwen brandished forth divine light to block the blow, then wrapped a silk sash around Mu Ruoyan to hold him fast. The mythical beast flew into a violent rage. Several bolts of lightning instantly struck down, and Hengwen warded them all off with a sweep of his sleeve. I struggled, doing everything I could in midair to charge down, too, but I could only watch helplessly as the claw of the beast slashed down toward Hengwen's back. I howled his name again as a shadow lunged forth and slammed Hengwen out of the way, solidly taking the impact from the beast's blow. Blood dripped from the beast's claws. It suddenly went still, and the shadow fell over to the ground. Furball. The beast howled again. Suddenly swinging its head and whipping its tail, it banged its head repeatedly against the ground. The young and tender voice of a child indistinctly cried, Great King, run! The beast raised its head to the sky and bellowed, its eyes blaring red. With Mu Ruoyan under his arm, Hengwen moved to block the beast and save Furball, still on the ground. The hair of the beast bristled in fury. I exerted all my strength to shatter my cloud binding and rush towards the ground. The hair of the beast bristled in fury as it lunged at Hengwen. It collided against Hengwen's barrier, sending up a burst of strange light that engulfed all the figures. Amidst the thunderous noise, I heard what seemed to be an out-of-tone howl from me. Hengwen! A colossal golden shield dropped from the sky and entirely enveloped the strange light in the ground. A hand suddenly clapped on this immortal lord's shoulder. Song Yao, don't worry. This lord is here to subdue this snow lion. Bai Hua Lingjun floated over to my side and folded his arms as he watched the golden, glittering shield. He sighed. I said you would definitely regret not letting me take that cat away. Alas. Fortunately, this lord has anticipated this scenario and borrowed Tian Shang's Lao Jun's spirit-suppressing shield. Without it, how could I have subdued this snow lion? The spirit-suppressing shield shrank smaller and smaller under the surge of golden light, even as the golden light gradually dimmed. I saw the ruins of collapsed walls and bodies strewn all over the ground, the sight of which was dreary to behold. Bai Hua Lingjun and I made landfall. The golden shield on the vacant ground was the size and shape of a small inverted bowl. I wasted no time. Where's Hengwen? I asked. Don't worry, relax. They're all in this shield, Bai Hua Lingjun said. He then put out his palm, a silvery light emerging from beneath the golden shield, and it slowly flew into his palm. It's inadvisable to remain here, Bai Hua Lingjun said. Let's head somewhere secluded first, before we talk. Bai Hua Lingjun and this immortal lord stepped onto a cloud and flew out of Lu Yang City. Song Yao, oh, Song Yao, you're really a lucky one, Bai Hua Lingjun said. You divulged heaven's secret and defied the Jade Emperor's decree to save Tianshu. Just so happens that the Jade Emperor is busy with the doctrine dialogue, and Mingwei has been called away on an assignment. They are both still unaware of what has transpired. Even more coincidentally, Mingwei has entrusted the Mortal Realm observation mirror to me and asked me to look out for you. I picked it up for a look the moment he left, just in time to rush over and provide emergency assistance. Listening half-heartedly, my response came in the form of 2 dry laughs. Bai Hua Lingjun continued with a sigh. But the commotion this time is so cataclysmic that no doubt some merit emissaries patrolling deities will report it to the Jade Emperor. His free hand patted me on the shoulder. It's only a matter of time before heaven punishes you. At most, I'll be sent to the immortal execution terrace, I said. Once more, Bai Hua Lingjun gave a long sigh. Hues of blue washed over the sky in the east. It was already dawn. Bai Hua Lingjun and I arrived at a desolate mountaintop. Bai Hua Lingjun set the golden shield on the ground and recited a chant. The bowl grew in size. Bai Hua Lingjun carefully pried the shield partially open and picked up a white figure with his finger. Bai Hua Lingjun laid it into his palm and inspected it. The snow lion. You've never seen it before, and Hengwen has only seen it in pictures. This lord had the privilege of seeing it once, which is why I could recognize it at a glance the other day. Nanming Dijun had saved its life before, and it snuck into the heavenly court to save Nanming after he was imprisoned for his crime. I did not manage to capture it then, and it fled a wounded beast. Seems like it possessed that mountain cat to conceal its tracks after coming to the mortal world. It usually slumbers within the cat, but Nanming's blood scent is capable of awakening it. It should have woken up once before, and that was how this lord was able to recognize it. So that's how it was. The so-called person in blue who had saved Nanming had never existed. It was the scent of blood on Nanming that day that had awakened the beast, who then killed everyone in the fox's lair and let Nanming go. But the mountain cat did not remember this after waking up. In all probability, the beast had created a false dream in its mind so that the mountain cat would take it as the whole narrative to recount later. Bai Hua, I called out, Can you stop going on and on? Where's Hengwen? Tianshu and Nanming. Yes, you'll see them soon, Bai Hua Lingjun answered. He lifted the golden shield, and the mass of silver light on the ground grew larger and larger before gradually dissipating. An orb of faint golden light materialized in Bai Hua's palm. This is Nanming Dijun's immortal soul. Mortal body cannot hold up against the simultaneous powers of the snow lion, Hengwen Qingjun, and the spirit-suppressing shield all at once, and it has already been obliterated. For the time being, Nanming Dijun's soul will be sealed in this orb of light. Alright, so kind of got half of it. He technically died-ish. This immortal lord, however, had neither time nor energy to care if Nanming's soul was round or flat. I stared agape at the ground. After the silver light receded, two youths who seemed to be similarly 11 or 12 years of age lay on the ground, their eyes closed. One of them was grasping Hengwen's folded fan, while the other wore Tianshu's jade pendant around his neck. This immortal lord heard himself blurt or cough. Well, about this, Bai Hua Lingjun said. Hengwen Qingjun sustained heavy injuries after his barrier collided with the snow lion's energy blast. Fortunately, the spirit-suppressing shield protected him in time, and his mortal energy returned to his body. But this spirit-suppressing shield, another cough, also tends to impact immortals in some way. So Qingjun may be like this for the time being and lose some of his memories. He will probably be able to recover after staying in the mortal world for a few days. Oops. My eyes became unfocused and my hands trembled slightly. Bai Hua Lingjun continued. On the other hand, it's a tad strange that Tianshu Xingjun did not end up like Nanming Dijun, but this is his real immortal form now. His mortal body should have already been obliterated, just like Nanming Dijun's. Tianshu probably ended up like this because Hengwen Qingjun protected him with a magical barrier, and the jade pendant he always carries on him in the heavenly court is a spiritual device, which must have played a part too. He probably will regress into the appearance and mental capacity of a youth for now and recover after a few days in the mortal world, just like Hengwen Qingjun. This immortal lord could only stare blankly at the two youngsters Hengwen and Tianshu had become. Not far from Hengwen lay the blood-covered furball who had been beaten back into his original form. It seemed to be still breathing, its belly rising and falling ever so slightly. Furball was surrounded in a mass of faint green light. This immortal lord approached it, and that faint light gradually condensed into a tiny ball that nuzzled against the fox's head. Slowly, it faded out and dissipated. Oh, I bet that was the mountain cat. The mountain cat had managed to break its soul free of the snow lion's body after all, and used its soul and meager cultivation to protect the fox, allowing the fox to hang on to its life by that one crucial thread. That's really sad. Like he was a baby. Like not a baby, but like that's sad. Bai Hua Lingjun joined me to help treat the fox's wounds. He sighed. A pity this snow fox's 1,000 years of cultivation have been wiped out. It can only be a common fox again. I fed some of my immortal powers to the fox. This lord has to take the snow lion and Nanming Dijun's soul back to the heavenly court to report to the Jade Emperor. Bai Hua Lingjun said, "You," a sigh, "you will not be able to escape your inevitable punishment by heaven." Another sigh as he gave this immortal lord a pat on the shoulder. "You and I have been fellow immortals for a long time, so I'll do you another favor. Hengwen Qingjun and Tianshu Xingjun shall temporarily remain with you in the mortal world, where you'll keep to their side. By the time I have returned to the heavenly court and finished my report, you would have spent a few days in the mortal world. By then, I reckon Hengwen Qingjun and Tianshu should have recovered. When the time comes," sigh again, "we'll see how the Jade Emperor's verdict goes." I cupped my hands. "Thank you." "No need to stand on ceremony with me," Bai Hua Lingjun said. "Donghua, Jingxiang, Lao Jun, and several other fellow immortals will intercede on your behalf, so you might not necessarily be sent to the immortal execution terrace. Once this is over, drinks are on you." Definitely, definitely, I cupped my hands again. Bai Hua Lingjun then rose into a beam of spiritual light and returned to the heavenly court. What do we think? We think he's actually going to get out of this, or... Place your bets. Place your bets. That's kind of why I like this author. I did not see the snow line coming. Chapter 18. He grabbed the corner of my robe, struggling to get up as he rubbed his bleary eyes. After surveying his surroundings, he asked with uncertainty, "Where is this place? And who are you?" I flashed my pearly whites and rubbed his head. "This is the mortal world. My name is Song Yao." "Oh." He cocked his head and looked at me. "I've never seen you before in the heavenly court. Are you an immortal lord, or an immortal without an official post? Why did I wake up in the mortal world?" "This humble immortal's celestial title is Tianshu Yuanju," I responded with a grin. "I'm here on the heavenly court's order to bring you to the mortal world for several days to gain experience. When you grow up, you have to take charge of the world's literary ethics, so you have to observe and experience the worldly sentiments and desires in the mortal world." His black, shining eyes continued to stare at me. "Are you here to supervise me?" "Not to supervise, but to take care of you," I said. "If there is anything you wish to eat, play, or want, let me know. There's no need to address me by my title. You can just call me Song." When I spoke to this point, a thought suddenly occurred to me. He's going to go for the Gaga. If I don't take advantage of this opportunity now, then when? So I continued in an amicable tone. "You can call me Uncle Song Yao, or Immortal Uncle Song." A smile gradually blossomed on his little face. Close. I was close. Right at this moment, Tianshu, in the form of a youth, rubbed his eyes and clambered to his feet in bewilderment. This immortal lord diverted my attention to look at Tianshu, and Hengwen looked up at me. "I've never been to the mortal world, so I don't know what's delicious or fun. Can you show me around, Song Yao?" I laughed wryly in my heart. Hengwen, oh Hengwen. "So it turns out you were never one to be taken advantage of, even as a youngster." He's like, "Oh man, I really wanted you to call me that, but no." Tianshu stood on the ground and fixed his clear bright eyes on me. "Where is this place? And who are you both?" "You both?" It then dawned on me that Tianshu was born way earlier than Hengwen. Only heaven knew where Hengwen was when Tianshu was a youth. Hengwen blinked. Pointing at Tianshu, he looked up at me and asked, "Who is he?" I was still hesitating over my words when Tianshu answered in a childlike voice. "I am Tianshu of the Beidou Star Palace. I have never seen either of you in the heavenly court before. Are you both immortals or immortal lords?" Oh no, I inwardly bemoaned myself. As expected, Hengwen's face scrunched into a frown. Tianshu? Tianshu Xingjun is clearly... I hurriedly covered Hengwen's mouth and pulled him to my side. I turned around and bent down to whisper into his ear. Something happened to Tianshu Xingjun in heaven. He's somewhat similar to you. The heavenly court conferred him the name Tianshu and had me bring the both of you down to experience the mortal world. You'll know why in a few days. Don't say too much for now, all right? Hengwen blinked his eyes and scrunched up his nose. Quiet, he whispered back. All right, but don't watch me as closely as you do him these days. Solemnly, I acquiesced. For sure. I let go of Hengwen, and sure enough, he stood obediently by my side and said nothing further. To Tianshu, I said, My name is Song Yao. My humble title, as bestowed by the Jade Emperor, is Tianshu Yuanju. I'm acting on his orders to bring you and this immortal, Hengwen, to experience the mortal world. You'll know why after returning to the heavenly court in a few days' time. For the time being, you'll remain in the mortal world with me. The present Tianshu did not have the frosty, awe-inspiring aura of an immortal. All he had was an air of juvenile innocence. Furthermore, he was much easier to fool than young Hengwen, who merely nodded his head obediently, believing whatever I said. Hengwen had been raised by the Jade Emperor ever since he was a child, and it was only when he was 300 years old that he had been granted the title of Qingjun, placed in charge of Wenshi Hall. Tianshu, on the other hand, had been born Tianshu Xingjun, the most honorable of all in Beidou Palace. I had not expected this younger Tianshu to be so easily coaxed. Nor could I imagine how such a sweet-tempered youngster would grow up to become the cold and aloof Tianshu. I mean, probably trauma, let's be real. Trauma, maybe war. Betrayal also is a possible flavor choice in there. Okay. Little Tianshu looked up at me with his clear, bright eyes. Please guide me along these few days in the mortal world. I smiled affably, so much that my face was about to cramp. Hengwen was all grins as he ran over to Tianshu and took his arm. My name is Hengwen. Can I call you Tianshu? Is it also your first time coming to the mortal realm? Tianshu nodded. Hengwen continued. Do you live in Beidou Palace? After we return to the heavenly court, I'll go over and play with you. Sure, Tianshu answered happily. This old shell of an immortal lord squatted on the side and watched young Hengwen and young Tianshu standing together, hand in hand, finding it as surreal as Donghua Dijun performing a water sleeve dance right before my eyes. I wonder what that is. That sounds cool. I'll have to look that up after. After a while, I warned Hengwen and Tianshu not to reveal any traces of their immortality before the mortals, even as I prepared to find a city where we could wait for the heavenly envoys to arrive. When that happened, Tianshu would go into his next reincarnation. Hengwen would continue being Qingjun, and I would head up to the immortal execution terrace. Just as the clouds were about to rise, Hengwen suddenly turned his head and looked at the undergrowth overgrown with weeds at his side. What's that? I followed his gaze. There, amidst the undergrowth, lay a white bundle, the fox. I was so focused on Hengwen and Tianshu that I had overlooked the fox. It had woken up when Baihua had treated its wounds, but could not move then. It had probably struggled to leave while my attention was on Tianshu and Hengwen. It could not even shift a few steps given its injury, so it simply lay flat on the ground. Hengwen rushed over and squatted down to brush aside the long grass. A white fox. How did it get injured? He reached out to stroke the fox's back. The fox buried its head in its fur, its eyes tightly shut. Tianshu joined them, squatting down. Its injuries are quite severe. Hengwen lifted the fox from the grass. Furball, being well fed, was a tad rotund, and the present Hengwen strained somewhat to carry it. As he held it, he said, "Be good, all right. I'll take you to get your wounds treated." The fox rested its head against Hengwen's little shoulder. Slowly, drops of tears welled from its shut eyes. I looked at Furball and heaved a long, long sigh. Yeah, it's kind of sad. He literally gave his everything to help protect Hengwen and is now set back literally 1,000 years and may not be able to cultivate again. That's rough. Young Master Song, are these two little young masters your... My neighbor, third Granny Huang, stood at the entrance of this immortal lord's small courtyard, staring fixedly at the children beside me. I laughed dryly without answering. Third Granny Huang was the wife of Third Grandpa Huang, the physician who lived next door to the small courtyard I had just purchased. I had just brought Tianshu and Hengwen to this city, and since it was not very safe or convenient to live in an inn with two youngsters in tow, I had bought a small courtyard. Having splurged a large sum of silver, the unscrupulous merchant who sold me the house acted swiftly and commandeered dozens of people in and out of the residence. In half a day, the little courtyard was thoroughly cleaned up. Brand new tables, chairs, and beds were all in place, while the beds in the side chambers had been laid out with new, clean bedding. A new, pristine tea set sat on the table, complete with a fresh brew of jasmine tea in the pot. The crowd then withdrew, their jobs done, leaving behind only a female cook, a young servant, and two maidservants to attend to us for the time being. I had just been about to close the courtyard doors when an old lady leaned in partially through the frame and started a conversation with me after exchanging introductions. Third Granny Huang's old but bright eyes had livened up when they landed on Hengwen and Tianshu. Seeing as I did not answer, Third Granny Huang continued to wonder with great astonishment. "Young Master Song, you're so young. How could you have two sons this big?" "This humble one married early," I answered. Third Granny Huang clicked her tongue. "Young Master Song, your wife can really give birth? The two little young masters look really..." She stared fixedly at Hengwen and Tianshu, sizing them up and down. "This little young master is really such a looker. My old self can't even begin to draw an analogy for his looks. That other little young master is also so delicately handsome. Tisk, tisk. Given how good-looking the two young masters are, your wife must be a beauty, far more ravishing than Shi Shu and Diao Chen of the Four Great Beauties. This old one has not seen your wife yet. The madam, she's dead," I answered slowly. Third Granny Huang was stunned, then she sighed in lamentation. That evening, she sent over 10 freshly steamed buns and a pot of steamed vegetables. The young Tianshu and Hengwen had never seen steamed buns before. That's unfortunate because they are delicious. When the maidservant carried those steamed buns over to the table during dinner time, Tianshu and Hengwen sat at the table and stared at the novel fare with two pairs of astonished eyes. When the maidservant left, Tianshu put on a contemplative look without making any move, while Hengwen picked up his chopsticks and reached out to poke one of them. "They're soft," he remarked with a face full of curiosity. He placed the chopsticks in his mouth to taste them. He frowned. "There's no taste?" Tianshu scrutinized the steamed buns, then Hengwen, following suit. He raised his chopsticks and poked gingerly at the bun. Hengwen bit down on his chopsticks and asked me, what is this thing?" "This is called a steamed bun," I answered with a serious countenance. Hengwen blinked his eyes. "Oh," Tianshu piped up with sudden understanding. "So this is a steamed bun. Tianshu Xingjun once told me that there's a kind of food called the steamed bun in the mortal world. It comes in large and small sizes. Then there's another kind that's even smaller than steamed buns called the stuffed dumplings. So this is a steamed bun." I kind of wonder if he's a foodie later in life. Be an interesting thing. I initially wanted to say that steamed buns and dumplings were actually very different. One was steamed, the other was boiled. There was also another kind that was made in bamboo steamers. But those two little silly faces were looking up at me, and I feared they would dwell on the topic until tomorrow, so I simply gave a perfunctory answer. That's right. This kind is the big steamed buns. The small ones are for breakfast. Then there are the dumplings. You will see them in the future." I picked up a steamed bun, took a bite, and then chewed and swallowed. This is how you eat it. The skin on the outside is flavorless, but there's filling inside. I mean, it tastes like rice, which I guess you could say is kind of... I'm not getting into it. Yes. Hengwan immediately reached out for the steamed bun he had poked earlier, while Tianshu gently took one and set it down on his plate. Holding the bun in his hand, Hengwan pinched it and looked at it left and right. "But won't it be inelegant to eat it the way you did just now?" I could only answer, "No. As they say, do as the natives do when you are in a foreign land. And this is how you eat this in the mortal world." Hengwen lifted the steamed bun to his eyes and looked at it repeatedly. Then he nodded and took a bite, after which he held it before his eyes with a look. Swallowing, he announced, "There's indeed filling in it." Then he simply broke the steamed bun apart and pulled the skin aside with his chopsticks to take a closer look. Choosing a spot with filling, he took a bite. "Delicious," he declared with a beam. Tianshu picked up his and ate it daintily, one small mouthful at a time. He had grown up with Hengwen in the heavenly court ever since they were young, and even when lifting and biting into the bun, he did so with poise and elegance. Tianshu ate one, picked up a few handfuls of steamed vegetables with his chopsticks, had a small bowl of porridge, and that concluded his meal. Hengwen, on the other hand, ate one, blinked, then took another. Although he ate with refined manners, he was fast, and he had only just finished the second bun when he took the third one. By the time he was started on his fourth, the mortal lord grew worried he would bloat, and when he reached for the fifth one, I intercepted his hand to stop him. "Overeat, and you'll get too bloated. Let's see how it goes tomorrow." Hengwen retracted his hand with a look of reluctance. All right. I was about to call for someone to clear the dishes and utensils when Hengwen said, "I'll take one steamed bun for the white fox." "Foxes don't eat steamed buns," I said. "Why?" Hengwen asked. "Foxes only eat meat, and they love chicken breasts," I replied. "I'll get the kitchen to make its dinner. Why don't you take a bath first?" Hengwen thought for a moment and then nodded. "All right." The young servant and maidservants were all quick-witted, having already prepared hot water for bathing in the chamber. Hengwen and Tianshu stood before the doors to the side chamber, politely giving way to each other. "I'm in no rush," Hengwen said graciously. "You must be tired, right? You go ahead." Tianshu shook his head. "I'm not tired. You carried the fox today. It's pretty heavy, and you must have caught quite some dirt on you, too. You should go first." The maidservant standing before the doors covered her mouth and smiled. "To me," she said. "Master. The two young masters really know more about propriety than adults." "Of course. Where do you think the two of them were raised?" Seeing them deferring to each other, I could only think of a way for them to arrive at a compromise. I made 2 lots for them to draw. Hengwen got priority, so he made his way inside for his bath. I had already gotten the young servant to call someone from the clothing store over the afternoon to take Tianshu and Hengwen's measurements, along with a few sets of clothes they could more or less wear first. Hengwen and Tianshu's clothes had been conjured and shrunken to fit their bodies by divine magic. Now that Hengwen had changed into clothing of a mortal youngster with the long sleeves rolled up, he looked even more childlike. A maidservant then accompanied him back to his chamber to retire for the night, a sight that amused me to see. A short while later, Tianshu stepped out after he was done bathing and changed into a new set of clothes, similarly a picture of childlike charm. I thought of Tianshu, then thought of Mu Ruoyan, and finally looked at the Tianshu before me. It was occurring to me more and more strongly that being able to see this sight, even though I would be sent to the immortal execution terrace in a few days, was all worth it. Now you're making me question whether you actually have a crush on Tianshu. So I was like, I swear I thought it was Hengwen, because why wouldn't you? He's great. And also, some of the things you've said, but with that statement right there, you're making me question. While I was washing up, I thought of what Nanming would look like if he had also turned into a youth or younger child. I wonder if I would be sent to the mortal execution terrace after Nanming and Tianshu re-entered the cycle of reincarnation. If so, would I have the time to ask Mingwei for a favor and borrow his mortal realm observation mirror to get a glimpse of Nanming in diapers? Is this just for blackmail? Like what? Just because? Whatever. Late at night, I drifted into Tianshu's chamber for a look. He was all tucked under the quilt, sleeping soundly, his clothes neatly folded on the chair. It was a very picture of carefree innocence. It's probably rare for Tianshu to have a good night's sleep when he was still Mu Ruoyan. I entered the other chamber, and Hengwen was sound asleep too. I carefully shifted him inward on the bed and lifted the quilt and lay down, but I still inadvertently woke him up. Rubbing his bleary eyes, he half propped himself up and looked at me in astonishment. Sounding tired, yes. why are you sleeping in the same bed with me? I froze for a moment, still holding up a corner of the quilt. Giving a dry laugh, I said, "It's been a busy day today, and only 2 side chambers have been cleared out, so there are only 2 beds available to sleep in." I looked at the childlike silhouette before me. The Hengwen of now still did not recognize me. Giving a helpless sigh, I tucked him back in bed and covered him with a quilt. "Sleep tight." Then I got off the bed and put on my outer robe, all ready to search for a spot on the ridge of the roof or a tree to squat the night away. I mean, understandable if you were a kid and like some random dude was just like, "Good night." Yeah. I'm glad he has a stranger danger sense. The night was so heavily shrouded in clouds I could not see a thing. I wondered if Baihua had already arrived in the heavenly court. By all accounts, it was almost winter now. No wonder the wind was so cold. Sitting on the ridge just a few days ago had been a marginally warmer experience. I yawned and lay down on the ridge. Truth be told, it was rough sleeping up here, with all the uneven and uncomfortably hard tiles. Earlier today, the servants who cleared out the chambers had even asked me, "Is it really enough to just clear out 2 side chambers?" I'd answered, "Yes. My son lost his mother at a young age and often gets night terrors. He's still in recovery and needs someone to watch over him while he sleeps." Actually, I was thinking that if the Jade Emperor were to really haul me up to the execution terrace in displeasure, then I would not be able to sleep on the same bed with Hengwen anymore. So I might as well seize the chance to sleep with him for as many days as I could, regardless of whether he was an adult or a youth. To put it in the words of the mortal realm, even if I die, I have to die a satiated ghost. That's still kind of weird, my dude. Like, that's a bit weird. Like, not in a good weird. That's the kind of tiptoeing towards ick. Kind of stomping towards ick, honestly. But when Hengwen had thrown me that question earlier, it occurred to me just how utterly despicable I was. So being a satiated ghost was out of the question. I was doomed to be a hungry ghost. Okay, at least we have like a little bit of self-awareness that was wrong. Good. I'm glad you realized that. Tomorrow I would get the young servant to clear out another empty side chamber. I closed my eyes again and yawned when I suddenly heard light footsteps on the roof tiles. I opened my eyes and gave a start. Hengwen was standing on the tiles looking down at me, wearing just a flimsy inner garment. "I can share my bed with you if you have nowhere to sleep. You left right away just now without waiting for me to respond. It's uncomfortable sleeping here, isn't it?" I bolted right up and wrapped my outer robe around him. "Why did you come out? Go back and sleep. The wind is cold outside." If a maidservant or servant were to walk out of the servant quarters right now, only to see old Master Song and the little young master standing on the roof ridge, they would no doubt be so frightened they would take a tumble. Hengwen grabbed hold of my sleeves. "All right. You can sleep in my bed. Let's go." I followed him back to his chamber. Hengwen burrowed under the quilt, and I thickened my skin and got onto the bed. He even offered me more of the quilt. "You'll need more to cover yourself with, so here you go." I gave it back to him and tucked him snugly in. "It's enough for me. You go on ahead and sleep." There's no need for you to be so polite with me, Hengwen said. When I come of age a few more years later and take up an official post, you and I will be fellow immortals in the heavenly court. It's only right for us to look out for each other. No, there's looking out for and sharing a bed. Right. You're absolutely right, I answered with a smile. Hengwen snuggled his head closer to me on the pillow. But I was told that I'm called Hengwen because I will be Hengwen Qingjun in days to come. So why are you called Song Yao when you are Guangshu Yuanjun? That's because I was originally a mortal who unwittingly ascended to immortality, I explained. My name in the mortal world is Song Yao. Song Yao sounds better than Guangshu Yuanjun, Hengwen commented. I was going to say that I thought the same, but after thinking about it, I let it drop. I was already about to be sent to the immortal execution terrace. I would only be adding fuel to the fire if the heavenly court were to hear me casting aspirations on the title bestowed upon me at this perilous juncture. Who knows? A fit of anger, the venerable one up there might not even let me retain a wisp of my soul for reincarnation. If only I had a name that's different from my title, Hengwen said softly. Aww. Many years ago, in the heavenly court, Hengwen had said those exact words to me. At the time, I had only just gotten acquainted with him. A certain heavenly lord had invited over guests, and he did me a favor and brought me, a junior immortal who had just joined the heavenly court, along as an accompanying guest. I was still not on familiar terms with the other immortals, but I had great time drinking to my heart's content, and we enjoyed ourselves till we were tipsy, tottering unsteadily as we each searched for spots to lie down and sober up. Hengwen pillowed his head on a blue stone and reclined by the heavenly river, where the merge of waves and mists floated in an expanse so vast there seemed to be no end. He suddenly said to me, I'd like to take on a mortal name too, but is there anything that would suit me? I gushed on and on about the art of naming, from choosing the given name at birth to pick the courtesy name after coming of age, and of selecting a name based on the classics, and of deciding a courtesy name after the virtues one hoped to emulate. There were lots of rules. Once I was done with my little speech, I had said with an embarrassed smile, Of course, challenges like quoting from the classics would not be a problem at all, to Hengwen Qingjun. No need for such complications, Hengwen said with a smile. Just one that's similar to yours, with two characters, catchy and easy to pronounce. In truth, it had not been easy coming up with my name. I had heard tell that my old man had called together scores of retainers and invited several renowned erudite scholars from the Hanling Academy to put their heads together. They had discussed it for several days before a name was finally decided. But it had always been a modest one, so naturally I would not flaunt this particular story of my birth. I merely said slowly, The surname comes first, then the name. My surname comes from my old man, Qingjun. What surname would you like to take? Hengwen Qingjun had gazed at the waters of the heavenly river and fell silent for a moment. Ahem. I guess you can just help me pick one from the mortal world. He wants to take yours, my friend. That's the one he wants. He's not being super subtle with that. After some consideration, I said, The Jade Emperor's surname as immortal seemed to be Li, as was Lao Jun's. Looks like Li is the surname of immortals. So why not take Li as your surname too? Hengwen waved his fan. No. It's meaningless if it's all the same. So I asked, In that case, do you want a more common surname or a rare one? common one is fine. So like I said, Wang, Shang, Li, Xiao, and Wu are the most common names in the mortal world. You aren't keen on Li, so it's left to us with Wang, Xiao, Shou, Shang, Xiao, Wu. The other day, when you introduced yourself to me, Hengwen said, you said that your surname is Song from Qi, Shu, Yan, Xiao, Han, Wei, Song. It seems to be a Zhao, too, among these states' names. Then tapped his fan on his palm, made up his mind. In that name, I'll take the surname Xiao. I had still been drunk then, and when the wind blew against me, I, overcome with intoxication and emotion, blurted, Zhao Heng, what do you think of this name? Hengwen had nodded with a smile. Excellent. Zhao Heng it is then. So he named him. Dude's got it bad. Oh my goodness. The past from several thousand years ago seemed to be right before my eyes. I turned to my side on the bed and asked little Hengwen, what kind of name do you want? For a moment he did not make a sound, as if he was thinking about it. Then he said, more or less similar to your name, easy to pronounce. Made a show of thinking about it before saying, Zhao Heng. Do you like this name? Hengwen nodded his head so hard that the quilt shook in tandem. He said in delight, all right, this name it is then. I looked at how delighted he was, but I could not say what I felt like deep down. Zhao Heng, Zhao Heng! Hengwen was still joyfully reciting the name. I tucked the quilt around him again. You should sleep. You've just arrived in the mortal world. You'll need to rest and keep yourself in top form. Hengwen nodded again and turned inward. When I woke the next morning, Hengwen was leaning against my shoulder, sleeping sweetly. I reached out, wanting to hug him, but fearing my touch would wake him, I shrank my hand back. As of today, I had no more excuses to sleep in this bed. Yesterday was probably the last night, and the thought of it made me dully melancholic. Just then, Hengwen woke up. Rubbing his eyes and yawning, he got up and very naturally let me attend to him as he got dressed. He then tugged at the corner of my robe. Thank you for the name last night. It's no big deal, I answered with a straight face. Consider it my thanks for letting me sleep here. Hengwen blinked at me and made a sound of acknowledgement, along with a smile. During breakfast, Hengwen stuffed 3 steamed buns into his tummy once again. This seemed to stimulate Tianshu's appetite, and he ate 2 for himself. I was overjoyed. After breakfast, I rose to my feet and was about to head off somewhere for a stroll when Tianshu suddenly asked, Yuanjun said that the heavenly court wanted us to gain experience in the mortal world. Are there any learning topics today? This question stumped me. Right. This was not an easy lie to cover up. For a time, I was at a loss of what to do, so I could only say, so we've only just arrived in the city yesterday. We are still not too familiar with the mortal world, so we should use these 2 days to get acquainted with it. Let's discuss this again in 3 days. Tianshu and Hengwen nodded solemnly, and that was how I managed to stall the issue. Before noontime, I took Tianshu and Hengwen to the marketplace for a stroll, experiencing for ourselves the stores, itinerant peddlers, street vendor stalls, and the pedestrians coming and going. It's great here in the mortal world, Hengwen remarked. It's far livelier than the heavenly court. But I heard that everyone in the mortal world wants to be an immortal, Tianshu said. If the mortal world is so good, why do they still want to be immortals? You always want what you can't have. I could only answer in all seriousness. Therein lies the mystery of the universe. You need to contemplate it on your own. Tianshu cast a respectful glance at me, probably thinking this immortal lord's words to be exceptionally sagely and benefiting of an immortal. Sorry. Tianshu and Hengwen were both conspicuous, and I was all the more conspicuous, leading them through the market. Might have been a special occasion today, as the marketplace was thronged with plenty of simply dressed married women from the poor households and pretty girls of humble births. Each one of them moved to the side of the road and stared incessantly at Tianshu and Hengwen. Tianshu, uncomfortable with the staring, tightened his grip on my hand. Hengwen, on the other hand, was totally unconcerned as his eyes roamed all over. Meanwhile, I felt awkward. The sides of the street were lined with gaily decorated buildings, quite a number of which were entertainment and pleasure quarters, where beautiful women stood against the railings. Had this immortal lord been alone, taking a stroll with just a folding fan in hand, I might have made a pass or two at them. But at present, I was laden with 2 tag-alongs in tow, so I could only dream of romance as I bulldozed through the marketplace, feeling envious with nothing to show for it. I was sighing when I noticed Tianshu walking and staring at the roadside at the same time. I stopped in my tracks and followed his gaze to see a stall display of steaming hotcakes fresh from the bamboo steamers. Tianshu seemed to be a little embarrassed when he realized he had been caught. He turned his head away from the stall. From the looks of it, Tianshu had never been one to voice out whatever was on his mind, even as a youngster. Both of you have never tried the cakes the stall is selling, right? Want to try them? I asked. Tianshu looked back at me and nodded. I bought 2 pieces. The cake was made of rice flour with some osmanthus and sesame powder sprinkled on top. The peddler wrapped each piece individually in coarse paper. They still felt fairly hot when I held them in my hands. I handed a piece to Tianshu and peeled back part of the wrapper. Be careful, don't scald your tongue, I said, and gave Hengwen his. He held it up and took a bite. A little sweet. With that comment, he looked up at me. I don't like sweet things, so I'll just taste a little, and you'll like the rest, okay? An old lady weighing walnuts at the dried fruit stall beside us had been stealing glances at Hengwen and Tianshu, and when she heard this, she immediately broke into an affectionate smile. Such a filial child, she said to me. You, sir, are so blessed. This immortal lord felt very depressed. My appearance should not have changed since my ascension. Tianshu and Hengwen did not look all that young now. At most, I could be considered their older brother. So why was everyone treating me as their father? They said that immortals live forever in eternal youth. From the looks at it, the vicissitudes of several thousand years had still left its trace on this immortal lord's body, making me look a little weathered and worn. Well, it's probably all the stuff you've been through recently, let's be real. I smiled at the old lady. Hengwen handed me his nibbled-on cake, and the old lady praised. What a sensible child. She scooped some walnuts from her basket and gave them to Hengwen with shaky hands. Hengwen immediately reached out to accept them. Thank you, elder, he said, to which the old lady repeatedly replied, You're welcome, you're welcome. Hengwen could not hold so many, so he put them all in his sleeves until he held only one in his hands. He looked it over and over, then opened his mouth to bite it. Oh my, the old lady hurried to stop him. Don't bite it, chimed in two. You can't bite it. The husk is hard and will give you a toothache. Hengwen held the walnut in his hand, looking puzzled. I'll crack the shells for you when we get home, I said amicably. Hengwen nodded, blinking his eyes. It's a rare sight to see a father bringing his 2 children to the marketplace, the old lady said to me. I'm sorry, I just thought I heard. It's a rare sight to see a father bringing his 2 children to the marketplace, the old lady said to me. Young master, you're well dressed, so why are you not taking the sedan chair? You don't even seem to have a servant following you. We just moved here, I said, so we came to the marketplace for a look. Is your esteemed wife at home? The old lady asked. No longer in this world, I said with a wry laugh. A group of people around us were listening with their ears perked up. On hearing this, every one of them sighed. The old lady sighed the hardest and filled Tianshu's sleeve full of peanuts. Tianshu said his thanks politely. I dragged him and Hengwen out of the crowd, even a few steps away. I could still hear the old lady's sympathetic sighs. What is an esteemed wife? Hengwen asked me. Why are these people giving us food the moment you say you don't have one? This immortal lord said with a wooden expression. They are asking about my wife. In the mortal world, a man has to marry a woman to be his wife. Realization dawned on Hengwen. Oh, so when you said you don't have a wife, they all sympathize with you. But why would they give us food? I coughed. Well, nibbling on his hot cake, Tianshu said, is it because they find you more pitiable having to take care of us without a wife, so they help you take care of us? As expected of a young Tianshu, so thoughtful and considerate. That's exactly it, I nodded. Tianshu polished off his cake and began studying the secret stash of peanuts. I shelled one from him, and he said in all seriousness, I've eaten the kernels before, but I never knew that they came with shells. Grabbed a handful from his sleeve and gave it to Hengwen. Eat these first. They are easy to shell. Hengwen accepted them. Thank you. We'll have the walnuts later when we get back. Sheer silk fluttered a few steps ahead. Yet another place of tenderness and many affections. A stunning beauty, dressed in a pale rose garment, was leaning against the railings on the 2nd floor, seeming to be idly gazing out into the distance, a sight that kept the eyes of all the strong young men on her. With my eyes fixed straight ahead, I led Hengwen and Tianshu to the foot of the building. Several simply dressed young girls were picking rouges, before the makeup stall by the side of the street. One of them was withdrawing from the store when she suddenly tripped. With a cry of surprise, she fell right into my arms. I froze. Right at that moment, a light object landed on the top of my head, too. Classic moment. Sorry. Chapter 19. A faint fragrance wafted before my nose. This immortal lord had not had dalliance in several thousand years. I had least expected to gain the perk of embracing a tender beauty before being sent to the immortal execution terrace. The young girl struggled out of my arms in a panic. Even her fair neck had turned bright red. She curtsied, then lifted her skirt and fled in a flutter. I took down the object on my head. To my surprise, it was a pink sheer handkerchief with a fragrance that assailed my nose, overpowering me. A person was suddenly standing before me. This person immediately dropped to one knee. My lord, what a coincidence! Of all people, Our Lady Qingxian's handkerchief fell on you. Clearly, this is the work of fate. How about coming over to our building to take a seat? Was this not the handkerchief of the maiden who had just bumped into me? From the building with fluttering sheer curtains and hanging silk, a woman who looked like a procuress sashayed over, waving her handkerchief. My lord, you picked up Qingxian's handkerchief, so she had this old one come out to welcome you and invite you in for a cup of tea to convey her thanks. Please honor us with your presence, my lord. As expected, whiling away several thousand years in heaven had worn this mortal lord down, and a scented handkerchief was about to lead me into a trap of the fairer sex. On hearing this, my first reaction was actually to look down at my side. Hengwen was holding onto my robe, watching with a look of curiosity. Tianshu was also looking around with a perplexed expression. I coughed once and answered with a dry laugh. I have my sons with me, so it's really inconvenient today. Thank you to the young lady for her kind intentions. Madam, please return this handkerchief to the lady. I'll come again for a visit, should I have time in the future. The procuress covered her mouth and said with a laugh, My lord, you really are a prudent man. It just so happens that fate has come knocking today, and besides, it's just a cup of tea. The two young masters are also of an age where they should be aware of the ways of the world and the facts of life. Coincidentally, there's one among my girls who is of similar age to the young masters. She can play with them. Then you can grace us with your presence, go in for a cup of tea and a song to fulfill the wish of that girl of mine to convey her thanks. The curiosity on Hengwen's face was deepening. My cold sweat trickled down relentlessly. If the heavenly court were to find out that I had brought the young and innocent Hengwen Qingjun and Tianshu Xingjun to the brothel, I would not even need to head up to the immortal execution terrace, for they would outright send a massive bolt of lightning to obliterate me clean. Thank you both for your kindness, I said with a stern countenance, but I'm really not available right now. Please pardon me. The procuress lamented with deep regret. My lord is so insistent on declining the offer. Don't tell me you disdain. Is it because you deem this lowly one to be too vulgar to serve you to your satisfaction? A woman in rose pink stood gracefully before me. It was the same beautiful woman leaning against the railing, staring idly out into the distance. Charming, delicate, finely arched brows, expressive, bright and seductive eyes, faces clear and luminous as the moon, dainty and graceful waist, so slender as to grasp. She was like the morning dew, a beauty who far surpassed, not suppressed, an entire garden of spring flowers. I mean, she probably suppresses them too with her beauty, but that's not it. With a smile, I said, It's a blessing to be invited by a beautiful woman, but unfortunately, I do indeed have something on today. I must ask you to treat me to a cup of seasoned tea should I have the free time another day. If I could get to hear the sound of your kin, too, that would be my good fortune. The beautiful woman smiled, her face like the intoxicating rosy clouds drifting in the sky. Looks like today is indeed inconvenient for the young master. I do not dare to force you to stay, but I hope you will remember our agreement today. I shall be by the window, pining for your visit every day. Since this handkerchief has an affinity for you, please accept it if you don't disdain it. Consider it as a token of our mutual agreement. I could only take the sheer handkerchief and put it away in my bosom. Beside me, Hengwen suddenly sneezed. I hurriedly looked down. What's wrong? Hengwen rubbed his nose. Nothing. Of course he's allergic to the handkerchief. He looked up at Xingjun and smiled, and at the sight of this, Qingxian smiled back sweetly in spite of herself. Then she curtsied and returned to the building with the brothel servant and procuress. Could not help but think that this handkerchief would not have fallen on my head had I been standing here together with the usual Hengwen. Hengwen tugged on my sleeve. When are we going back? He asked. Now, I answered. It was lunchtime by the time we returned to the small courtyard. Hengwen and Tianshu could not stop thinking about Third Granny Huang's steamed buns. Once all the dishes were served, they asked, Why aren't there any steamed buns? We are out of steamed buns, I said. I'll get someone to buy some more for dinner tonight. Only then did Hengwen and Tianshu begin to reach out with their chopsticks. I made a special point of having the cook fry some scrambled egg for the fox. After lunch, Hengwen took the plate to feed the fox personally. Furball was temporarily settled down on a soft couch in the small hall. Although I had used my divine powers to help it treat its injuries, its wounds still had not healed. It was weak and feeble, looking very downcast. Hengwen fed it the egg with a pair of chopsticks, and it ate it one mouthful at a time. Tianshu watched from the side with great interest. Once the egg was gone, Furball smacked its lips and licked Hengwen's hand. Hengwen stroked its back. I heard Song Yao calling you Furball. Is your name Furball? Furball propped its eyelids open and glared resentfully at me. Actually, its name is Xuan Li, I said. Hengwen immediately petted it and called its name twice. Xuan Li, Xuan Li. Xuan Li sounds like a nice name, Tianshu commented too. The fox nuzzled against Hengwen's palm, tears re-emerging from the corners of its eyes. I'm glad that they came to, an understanding. I had the maidservants and the young servant tidy up another side chamber in the morning, so we each had our respective rooms for our afternoon nap. I sent Tianshu to his chamber, then sent Hengwen back to his. Just as I was about to step out from Hengwen's chamber, however, he piped up from behind me. Aren't you sleeping? Why did you go out? My chamber is ready, I explained, so you don't have to squeeze with me in bed anymore. Have a good rest. Oh, Hengwen said. Where is your chamber? At the end of the walkway, I replied. What's it like? Hengwen asked. I could only answer, why don't you take a look there? Why don't I take you there for a look? Sorry. Sure, Hengwen responded. I led Hengwen into the newly tidied side chamber. It was at the end of the covered walkway, so it was not as bright as Hengwen and Tianshu's rooms. The pond in the backyard was visible from here, and had it been summer, the view would have been a good one. But now, with winter right around the corner, the most the scenery could muster was the occasional leaf or two floating on the pond. Hengwen walked around my chamber, peered out of the window for a look, and then sat on the bed to feel the quilt. Delicately, I asked him, if you want to stay here for a bit longer, why don't you take an afternoon nap with me? Still weird to me. Hengwen thought for a moment before nodding. Sure. And so, I earned myself yet another unexpected afternoon. Looking at Hengwen lying on the bed, I felt despicably delighted. So I took off my outer robe and prepared to get in bed, Qingxian's handkerchief sailed out from my chest. Picked it up for a look. Who could have thought that I would finally get lucky in the romance department? Could changing my fate of eternal solitude be an actual possibility now? I mean, yes, but not with that person. I looked back at the bed. Hengwen was lying on the pillow, looking at me with black, shining eyes. I tucked the handkerchief away and lay down. Hengwen snuggled up to me, yawned, and closed his eyes. I tucked the quilt around him and closed my eyes too. The nap took all but 2 hours. After getting up in the afternoon, I took a stroll in the yard to look at the scenery. The children in the alley, knowing that there were 2 new youngsters living here, clung to the enclosing wall and craned their necks over it to peek into the yard. I found Tianshu and Hengwen to be mature in spite of their tender age, having grown up in the heavenly court, and this was a rare trip down to the mortal world, so I urged them to play with the children. In the mortal world, the youth of around their ages would have long found it beneath themselves to play with these children, so this gaggle, upon seeing Hengwen and Tianshu were willing, went wild with joy. Tianshu and Hengwen had never played with children before, so they shared in this delight. That's sweet. Tianshu and Hengwen returned only when it grew dark. They were, however, perplexed on top of their delight. Those children asked me what my name was, Hengwen told me. I said my name was Zhao Heng, and they asked me why my surname is Zhao when yours is Song. Should have the same surname as you. Why is that? I rubbed my temples. Because of this humble immortal's appearance, those mortals thought I was your father. To conceal our identities, I boldly claimed that to be the case. For that, I ask for your pardon. In the mortal world, the son has to take after their father's surname. Hengwen blinked his eyes like he did not really understand it, while Tianshu added, Hengwen and I also play chess with a few elders in the afternoon. They couldn't beat us, so they slapped the table and said they'd be our sons and grandsons if they played chess with us again. Is being someone's son a humiliating act in the mortal world? If that's the case, why did you... Without batting an eyelid, the immortal lord answered, Oh, that's because they thought they were a lot older than both of you. In the mortal world, it's very humiliating to say you'd be the son of someone younger than you and unrelated by blood. I'm much older than both of you, so I can play the part for the time being. That way, we won't expose our identities to the mortals. Tianshu had always been very easy to coax, and as expected, he looked pensive after hearing those words. With a smile, he said, We are, in fact, much older than them, so they shouldn't be saying such things, and even if they did, they wouldn't be on the losing end, right? Right, I said. But you can't tell them or we'll expose ourselves. Okay, Tianshu nodded. And so the conflict was resolved and dinner was served without a hitch. Hengwen and Tianshu did not think much of the steamed buns that we bought, fixated as they were on those made by third Granny Huang. Hengwen ate only 2 and Tianshu 1. How about we buy from another stall tomorrow, I asked. Or we could make dumplings. Only then was their interest piqued. After Hengwen fed Furball, I had them draw bathing lots like they had done the day before. Today, Tianshu drew first dibs, and after he was done bathing, he returned to his chamber as Hengwen started his turn. After my own turn, I went over to Tianshu's chamber for a look. He was already sound asleep. I then went to Hengwen's chamber, but he was nowhere to be seen. The little young master has gone to your room, a maidservant told me. I returned to my chamber, and sure enough, Hengwen was sitting on my bed, folding a piece of paper. He looked up at me and smiled, and for the briefest flicker of an instant, my eyes played tricks on me under the light. I thought I had been looking at the full-grown Hengwen smiling at me from the bed. I walked in. Why aren't you going back to your rooms? It's getting late. I took a nap at noon today, so I don't really feel like sleeping at night, Hengwen explained. Tianshu wouldn't play with me, as he's already gone to bed, so here I am. I sat at the table. But there's nothing fun to do at night. You should go to bed. Song Yao, after our learning experience in the mortal world, will you return to the heavenly court with us? Hengwen asked. Of course, we'll return together. Heck, the immortal execution terrace is probably even waiting for me right now. If the heavenly court lets me, I replied ambiguously. Hengwen immediately smiled. That's great. After I return to the heavenly court, I'll continue to seek you out for fun. I nodded. Sure. Sitting on the bed, Hengwen waved the sheet of paper he'd been creasing, a sight that resembled the fully grown Hengwen when he shook his fan. My heart fluttered again. Hengwen yawned, and I could not help but ask, will you still be sleeping here tonight? Sure, Hengwen said. It's a hassle to return to my room. I put out the light, then lay on the bed and pulled up the quilt. Hengwen snuggled up against me. I lay there with my eyes open, thinking of the past and nursing that twinge of regret. If only I had known it would come to this. Even if I had known, nothing would change. Having earned all these thousands of years for myself, I would actually be content. But still, I thought to myself, if only the one lying beside me now were the usual Hengwen. If only the one lying beside me now were the usual Hengwen. I had only these few days left in the mortal world. Sorrow welled in my heart, and I felt as despondent as if I was reciting mournful poems and tragic verses again. A sudden impulse seized me. I propped myself up, leaned over to my side, and kissed him. Oh. Hengwen was sleeping soundly, but he murmured and unexpectedly grabbed onto my clothing. My surge of emotions hit boiling point. I reached out to embrace him and sought out his lips. He compliantly parted them, his soft tongue entangling with mine in response. Held him tighter. I gave a start, suddenly regaining my senses. I hurriedly released my hold, sat up, and gave myself a slap. Song Yao, you beast. You wouldn't even spare a youth? You're even worse than an animal. Jade Emperor, how could I have done such a deed? I stumbled over to the table and downed a mouthful of cold tea. Hengwen, even if he was Hengwen, was merely just a youngster. I downed another mouthful and looked over at the bleak color of the night seeping through the window paper. There was only these few days left, but Hengwen was still a youngster who could not recognize Song Yao for what he was. I let loose a long, dejected sigh. Even if there were only these few days left, we could not continue sleeping like this anymore. Thank you. Thank you. And with that, we are done for tonight. All right. As you could probably pick up, I have some feelings about what just occurred. I'm glad that he has that, as I said before, some of that self-awareness there. Oh, bye, Cookielicious. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. I will not be doing Thursday, but I will be doing Tuesday next week. And as I said, we have 2 streams left, so it'll be Tuesday and Thursday, and then we will start our next books. So if you haven't already voted, on either Thousand Autumns / Peerless afterwards or Fishbook. It's under the posts on my channel. This goes for everybody here, whoever's watching this. Right now, I think Thousand Autumns is winning, but we will see. I will check it Tuesday. You voted for the Fishbook? That's one of my absolute favorites. So I'm happy either way. I enjoy both of those series. Liu makes me laugh. But anyway, yeah, we kind of are going like on a side quest right now, and I think it's super intriguing, except for like this ick. This is my ick. And I'm glad he's kind of realizing this is not right, and is going to be putting a stop to that, because no. He crossed the line and immediately realized no. So, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week, both whoever's here right now and who watches this later. Have a great weekend. I don't think there's any other holidays this month, but if there is, or if there's something going on, have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you Tuesday for a second to last stream of Peach Blossom Debt. I don't remember if I said I'm Rosebud Reads, but I'm Rosebud Reads if I didn't say so before. I think you probably know that because you're here on my channel. But if not, have a fantastic rest of your night. Bye-bye.